All right, good morning. Thank you for joining us for this week's weekly Wednesday presentation from the Otsego County Single Point of Access, also known as SPOA. This presentation is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Otsego County Office for the Aging Facebook page and to our county website. I ask that everyone except the presenter and myself keep your videos turned off and that you remain muted unless you have a question. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions as we move through this presentation. You can also use the chat feature if you prefer, and I will ask those questions for you. My name is Alicia Chase. I'm Otsego County's long-term care coordinator. My role here at Office for the Aging is to supervise the Otsego County New York Connects program. For those of you who are not familiar, New York Connects is the connection for all long-term services and supports. While my office is under Office for the Aging, we are unique that we are able to help anyone of any age who is looking for help navigating the complicated long-term care system. We can help friends, families, caregivers, and clients who are looking for information and assistance, including guidance, referrals, application assistance, adult home or nursing home placement, or just to name a few. We can also help connect people to area agencies such as Mental Health, Department of Social Services, and Disability Services. If you are unsure, please do not hesitate to reach out. We do have a New York Connects partnership with the Independent Living Center in Oneonta. Those of you wishing to reach out to me can do so by calling our office here at Office for the Aging, 607-547-4232. At this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Sally Tedesco with Otsego County SPOA for today's presentation.
Thanks, Alicia. Hi, everyone. My name is Sally Tedesco. I am the Otsego County SPOA coordinator. I work with both the adult SPOA and children's SPOA. So today I'm going to give an overview, and there might be lots of questions in terms of, the more detailed aspects of various programs, and hopefully we'll have time for that at the end. We should. All right. So single point of access, it's also called SPOA, which oftentimes people don't understand what that means, was part of the New York State Mental Health Program Initiative about 20 years ago. Each county in New York State has some sort of a SPOA program. Each county definitely runs them differently. Larger counties might have 1, 2, 3, several SPOA coordinators depending on the size of the county. So here in Otsego County, as a rural, smaller county, I am both the adult and children's SPOA coordinator. So basically SPOA was designed to expand the existing mental health system and make sure that people with severe mental health issues were connected to the right services and or services that they might not have known of in the community. Basically, the goal was to make a more comprehensive and coordinated system for people to navigate. So I always use the phrase breaking down the silos because we have so many different programs, we have so many different service systems, and we picture them in like the one silo being mental health, one silo might be aging services, one silo could be the medical system. And so the goal is to kind of make sure that all these services are coordinated and that we're not only looking at one service system that we're kind of communicating across the board. So you can look at this like there's multiple services within the mental health system that need to collaborate, but there's also various systems that need that collaboration. So the goal is to kind of make sure that we're breaking down the silos and there's more connection between all the service providers. So I describe SPOA as a service. So SPOA is a single entity which receives, processes, and reviews referrals for residential options, housing, case management, and lots of other services, which we'll get into. And then there's also SPOA as a process, which is really looking at the SPOA process as a way to improve access to care, a way to communicate, and kind of a service delivery system. So there's SPOA services, and then there's also the process of SPOA, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. Some services don't require a SPOA referral and some do. And I'll kind of talk about that as we go through the SPOA services. All right, so adult SPOA. So adult SPOA is 18 and up. And the first service I'll talk about is the community residence. So here in Otsego County, we have an 8-bed OMH licensed community residence. It's on Elm Street in Oneonta. It's run by Rehabilitation Support Services, RSS, which you'll hear me refer to a lot in this presentation. Basically, people that are referred to the community residence need the highest level of support. So they need a lot of support in terms of medication management, working on goals. And the goal ultimately is to move to independent living. There is staff there 24 hours a day, and they work with each resident on, what their goals are, how can they kind of move forward in their recovery. Many times the referrals for the community residents come straight from psychiatric hospitals, but other times it's just someone that we already know of in the community and they're not necessarily succeeding in their current, situation, and so they would go to the community residents. It's our community residence is male and female, and like I said, there's 8 beds, so it kind of ebbs and flows in terms of availability. So that is the community residence. Every county around here also has, and our kind of adjoining counties has a community residence. So sometimes we'll get a referral for the community residence. We might not have room, or might not have room for a female. And then we'll collaborate with surrounding counties. RSS runs the Delaware County, Schoharie County CRs, we refer to it as. So we can often kind of work together to find the right placement for somebody. The next level, which I kind of say is like a step down from the community residence, is the treatment apartment program. This is also 18 and over, OMH licensed residences, and they're all in Oneonta for us. We have 8 apartments for the treatment apartment program. They're situated in the community. You'd never know that, this is a specialized apartment this is a treatment apartment. And so essentially, staff from RSS will work with the person in their own apartment on similar things as they would in the CR, med management, goal setting. They don't need as intensive treatment as the CR, but they still need that level of support. And then again, this is not meant to be forever. They transition into their own apartment. Again, with the treatment apartment, sometimes there's availability, many times there's not, but we really look to kind of move people, get people kind of working on their goals and move to that next level of care. And sometimes people will come from the community residence to the treatment apartment program and then transition out. Next, we have the supported housing program. So the supported housing program is essentially a rental stipend that goes towards the rent of someone's house. So say they have Social Security, which can be very limiting. The supported housing program can help offset the cost of the rent as the person continues in their recovery and in treatment. This can really be helpful for somebody that has a mental health diagnosis, needs some support to kind of get back on their feet, but doesn't need as intensive support as the community residence or the treatment apartment. And also for supported housing, the goal is eventually to move into the Section 8 or HUD grant. So it kind of holds people over until they come up on that list, which is very lengthy. So that's the supported housing program. We probably, I don't know, I want to say we have probably 15 people enrolled in this program. It's based on the amount that we get for the county. And I don't think the amount has changed in a long time, but the rent has gone up. So we're not able to enroll as many people. But this is a highly sought after program. So, landlords have to be willing to work with RSS and so on. It's quite a process, but it can be really stabilizing for some people. So next, we have non-Medicaid care coordination. So we'll talk about like the regular care coordination a little bit later, but this is non-Medicaid care coordination. So if someone does not have Medicaid eligibility, but still has a mental health issue and they need added support, we can look at non-Medicaid. There's limited slots for this. So sometimes the case manager will kind of work and try to see if this person might qualify for Medicaid in the future. So basically care coordination is linking people to the services that they need, trying to help them get to their appointments, whether that's mental health or medical, and case-specific advocacy. So through the housing system or DSS or, the various systems that people have to deal with, a care manager is like a person's point of contact in the community. Next, we have the Mountain View Wellness Center. Also, it's been referred to as the Social Club for many years. So this is at 9 River Street in Oneonta. I put a general description of what social clubs are, and I put the kind of list of options that we can provide at our social club. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it's been closed for the last year. They recently started discussions about reopening. I think it's going to, the discussions just started, but we're hoping that there'll be some sort of option. So the Mountain View Wellness Center is kind of a drop-in center located on River Street. It's like right across from Stewart's in Oneonta. And there's lots of different options there. They do have lunch every day. This isn't in a normal world. They have lunch every day. They do different community trips. They have various groups on wellness. They have a pretty big art room where they do some art programs. So it's kind of, and there is a van that will pick people up in different parts of the county on certain days. So this is something where someone can be referred, they can get enrolled, and they can attend once a week. If on a Wednesday there's a group that they enjoy attending, they can just come on Wednesdays. So there's no, requirement in terms of how often someone comes to the wellness center. And some people just go and it's just a good outlet, get out of the house, have some coffee, chat with some peers. Currently, I know that the wellness center is doing some kind of one-on-one peer visits. They've been dropping off food and hygiene products to people that need them. And they have, I think, a weekly Zoom where people are kind of getting together that way. So hopefully things will be up and running soon with the wellness center. And also housed at the wellness center are the vocational and employment services. So this is a whole kind of other beast in itself, but through the SPOA referral, we can make the connection to vocational support through RSS, which is also right there at the wellness center. There's job coaches, there's some supported employment opportunities. You guys might know of the Oneonta Bagel Company, so that is one of our, I don't have a way to mute my phone, I'm sorry. That's one of our supported employment opportunities. And really it's job skills, job training, try to get people, ready for competitive employment in the community. There's also some jobs right there at the wellness center. We have clients who make the lunch, clients who clean, clients who do lots of different things. So this is a really great resource. And they also connect with Access VR. So Access VR is another kind of employment program. So they kind of overlap each other in a sense. So you can do a SPOA referral and get connected at RSS for the vocational program, and then they'll kind of work through that Access VR process with somebody, which can be a little bit difficult and lengthy. So that's a good route to go. So other referrals that come to me, so sometimes people just feel like, okay, this person has a mental health diagnosis, they need some more support, I'm gonna make a SPOA referral. Sometimes none of those programs make sense for somebody, but there's lots of other things in the community that I kind of determine, hey, this person could benefit from. So you can make a SPOA referral basically for any reason. And if they don't qualify or don't need any of the services that I just described, that's okay. We'll look at making other connections in the community. So one of the biggest referrals I make is for health home care coordination. I think there's a presentation on that that is uploaded. You guys can watch that. But that's like a case manager. That's what we used to call case managers, and really being that point of contact in the community. For health home care coordination, you do need Medicaid. Then if they don't need the housing programs that I described earlier, that intensive level of housing, I can still get people connected to other community agencies. DSS, APS, New York Connects. Alicia and I often go back and forth with referrals, OPWDD and HCBS. So I always tell someone, make the referral to me, you know, even if we're not looking at the community residents or the person doesn't want to go to the wellness center, you can still make the referral, and I am more than happy to help get that person connected to other services. So that is adult SPOA. I guess I'll pause there. Does anyone have any questions about adult SPOA specifically?
Hey, it's Heidi.
Hi, Heidi.
Hey, I have a question for the housing assistance. Do you have to be Medicaid eligible?
Yes, you
Okay.
do. Yep. So for the housing, basically, if say someone has no income, they can apply for public assistance, which helps pay for it, or if someone has Social Security, that will offset that too.
I'm thinking like the transition for young adults, like moving, still living at home, but you know, how do you get them out on their own when they're still sort of considered under parents, you know, but they're old enough to be out on their own.
Right. Yeah, so someone in that kind of scenario, and actually this the 18 to 21-year-old population has come up more recently in terms of a service need area. But yeah, say someone's 19 and they're ready to move out, they have some mental health stuff going on. If they didn't have any income, then they would have to apply for public assistance, and then that would be their source of income for the apartment, and then the supported housing could offset that cost. So if they don't have any income, then they probably qualify for Medicaid. If they do have income, they still could qualify. It just matters how much that is. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question, Sally.
Yeah.
I'm aware of an individual, he's the adult, and has a very good job. He probably makes between 50 and 60,000 a year. He lives in Monroe County. He has an apartment all by himself, but he has Asperger's, and he's not capable of being responsible enough to clean his apartment. In fact, he almost got evicted a couple of times because the landlord went in there and it was atrocious. And so I was trying to help his mother access something in Monroe County. Again, a great job, goes to work every day, but because of the Asperger's, he gets overwhelmed pretty easily. Would there be something available with someone like that?
That, do you know if he's ever been enrolled in the OPWDD system?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like something, I mean, that might be something where he potentially would qualify for an aide or something to come in and do some work that way. I think the income piece is going to be challenging for him. You know, if he makes that much money, he might not qualify for certain like in-home aid services. And probably Alicia can speak more to that because she knows more about those in-home services in that way. So that's definitely a tough one when the income is higher and he can live independently, but you have like a specific issue going on. I'm more than happy to talk with you about it, and we might be able to, you know, sometimes I can get you connected to the Monroe SPOA, and they might know of something that I don't know of that's in their county.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We had a question in the chat. Is SPOA strictly limited to those with mental health? So I did answer it back to the chat, but just for everyone, it is strictly for mental health diagnosis. But if you have someone who needs similar services to these that does not have a mental health diagnosis, you could refer them to New York Connects, and our caseworkers here can help them get similar services.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Alicia.
And then we have another one for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering what the referral process looks like for adults. What kind of assessments do they have to complete? What kind of documentation do they need?
Well, and I don't have the referrals. I can talk about later in terms of the like where to find the referral forms. It's the adult SPOA is like kind of lengthy, but ultimately part of my job is to say I get a referral. I will meet with the person. I will assess, the person, and then if they're in mental health treatment, there's some documentation that I would need to get from their outpatient providers. And if they're not in mental health treatment, we can work on making that happen. So there's a referral form, and then there's kind of like the process that happens after that. So I could definitely like get the information to you in terms of the links and where they would be. And then there's also question marks if you're not sure if someone has a mental health issue, but we can work on, how do we get them somewhere to get evaluated and see if that is the case. I hope that answers the question. And we can talk more about that near the end of the presentation. Any other questions on the adults? Okay, we'll keep moving. All right, so for children's SPOA, there's less services that need to go through SPOA, but I do get lots of children's referrals because the system can be very confusing, and so it's good to kind of do a single referral to me, and then we kind of go from there. So the first I'll talk about, which doesn't happen too often in our county, thankfully, is residential treatment facility referrals. So an RTF, as they call it, I think we have 4 in our region. There's several spread across the state. An RTF is really something we don't jump to. So we try everything we can to keep a child working with their outpatient providers and provide additional support to them, and in addition to their therapy, to prevent RTF placements. So this is really kind of like the last stop. And the referrals come to me, and I assess, for the appropriateness of the referral, and we bring this to the SPOA committee to make sure that it makes sense to everyone on the team. And I'll talk a little bit more about the committee later. But essentially, we want to make sure that we've tried what we can for youth before we look at RTF placement. And the RTF authorization committee really takes a look at these referrals and does not take them lightly. That we don't want children to have to go to an RTF, but they can be very helpful and successful. So youth would go to an RTF and they live there, and it's, I think they're decreasing the length of stays. They don't want kids there for a long time, so maybe 6 to 9 months, sometimes a bit longer, and where they're getting intensive treatment from therapists. There's psychiatrists. They have aides that kind of support the youth day to day. And some RTFs, there's a school on site. Other RTFs, the child might go to the school in that school district. So for example, right now in our county, we only have 2 children in an RTF. Other counties have a lot more. Some might not have any. So it's definitely kind of like a last stop. So next is a community residence. So a community residence is a home, 6 to 8 children or adolescents. I think we have Elmwood in Oneonta, and I think we have 8 beds available there. Yeah. We have 5 in our region. And again, we don't often make referrals to community residences. This is, less intensive than an RTF, but really for a child that's not thriving at home, really struggling with their mental health, need really more intensive day-to-day support. We do probably have more referrals to community residences, but right now I don't believe we have anyone in a community residence. So that's a good thing. But this is an option, and definitely we look at what else have we tried, what else have we put in place for this youth and this family before we look at community residence placement. Similar to the adult side, we do have children's non-Medicaid care coordination. Again, a care coordinator will provide, support in getting families linked to additional services in the community. Basically anything that a child needs, whether that's educational support, getting, connected with MCAT, lots of different things. Non-Medicaid care coordination can do that. And that is also run by RSS. We also have a program called Choices. So Choices is for youth aged 0 to 5. This is a newer program through our system of care. And essentially, the goal of Choices is really to, this is for at-risk children. So at risk of a mental health issue. That can mean a lot to a lot of different people. So we look at it like if someone's concerned, we can, they can make the referral to Choices, and we'll go from there in terms of do they qualify or not. We don't turn many people away, but Choices is the main piece of Choices is a family peer advocate from FRN, Family Resource Network, will provide like advocacy support, help navigate the systems for somebody, whether that be this child might have developmental issues. Should we look at OPWDD? Again, school advocacy, getting connected with mental health. So the family peer advocate is like the hub of this program. We can also access mental health providers. It's tough in the 0 to 5 to really determine, what will make sense for somebody. So obviously a 1-year-old mental health counseling isn't going to work, but you get to the 3, 4, 5, there might be some family and youth support that we can provide, and then referrals to parent education groups. So similar to the adult SPOA, for children SPOA, these are other referrals that don't necessarily have to come through me, but oftentimes do. So again, someone says, I don't know what to do, this child is struggling, we need to get some more help. They'll make a SPOA referral. They might not, probably won't qualify for the residential programming, but then we look at what are the other services we can get that person connected with. So health home care coordination, OPWDD, sometimes there's probation, PINs, or DSS referrals made. Outpatient mental health services is a big part of it. And then HCBS and CFTSS. These two don't have to come through SPOA to make the referral, but it's a good idea to do it that way because we have those providers at the table, and it's a complicated system. And I put some information on them in the next couple of slides just because I don't think they're as well known of a service, and so we try to get people connected. So this is CFTSS. Children and Family Treatment and Support Services. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different services that fall under that CFTSS. So say, for example, someone has a therapist at the mental health clinic and they have a case manager. We might say, hey, this kid is, doing okay, needs a little bit more help with, kind of implementing some of the skill building in the community. So we might look at psychosocial rehabilitation or CPST. These are 2 here. So they kind of are an adjunct, go in conjunction with the therapy that they're already receiving. So, this is kind of like added support to what they're already getting. And OLP right here is actually a therapist that would come to the home. So definitely can be a really great addition to a child that's in therapy but still needs some more. Crisis intervention is here, and that's most of the time we're utilizing MCAT for that. Then we have HCBS. So HCBS is still even complicated to me. So, but I look at HCBS as, so CFTSS services. This is like maybe more intensive than that. And this service is, again, something we'll look at before we want to look at any kind of placement for somebody. You have to have a care coordinator in order to qualify for each CBS, and they do the care coordinator does the evaluation for this level of support. So oftentimes I'll get a referral and I'll say, let's start with a care manager, and then we'll kind of go from there to see if they qualify for some of these services. So does anyone have any children specific questions? It's a lot, it's complicated, it's ever changing. So I'm always open to phone calls and you know, discussions in more detail about what makes sense for somebody.
We had a question about the non-Medicaid care coordination. Is there a cost to the individual for that?
There is not. Nope, it's state funded. So we have only a few slots, but there is no cost to the individual. They do have to meet the criteria, which, you know, is basically having a mental health diagnosis. So as long as there's a mental health diagnosis and we can prove that by way of the therapist or the pediatrician or somebody like that, then they would qualify. Any other questions on the kids side? Okay. All right, so referral process, basically anyone can make a referral to me. I have received referrals from families, hospitals, therapists, care managers. I mean, anyone can really make the referral. Once I receive a referral, I will reach out to the client or the guardian, if it's a child, to review the application, so the information that I have, and discuss the possible connections we can make. In a normal world, I was going out to see people. I'm starting to get back to that a little bit, but I've been doing Zooms, phone calls. You know, it's really at this point personal preference in terms of what people feel safe with. So we review the application, and sometimes you know, we can't. It's kind of work in progress. We don't know immediately at that first intake what this person needs, but they'll say it's a guardian, they might sign a release for the therapist and say, hey, please talk to the therapist. They might have some insight as to what else my child could benefit from. Or we're able to kind of identify a few referrals right then and there. So additional information is often needed from providers. So kind of, you know, especially when we get to the higher level of referrals, like community residents and community, you know, those kinds of supports, you know, we need to really, you know the history and what's happened here before we kind of jump to making a referral like that. The client will then be reviewed at the SPOA committee meeting to review what are they already getting, where are the gaps here, and then the whole team will collaborate. And those meetings are held monthly. This is my little depiction, but essentially it's, you know, we all come together in order to make sure of a few things. One is who's working with this person. So oftentimes we'll get a referral and one of the case managers say, oh, I was in outreach with that person and never was able to get in touch with them. And I might have an updated phone number, or they might have called Alicia, or, you know, there's someone at the table that knows them and says, oh, okay, here's their info. This is what's going on with them. Other times it's, you know, to ensure there's no duplication so that this person doesn't have two people trying to help them with the same service. And lastly, it's to, you know, for accountability. Okay, so who's doing what? What are we doing to help this person so they don't fall through the cracks? So that's kind of, you know, a SPOA meeting. So we'll review all the people that are at the community residence and any new referrals for the community residents. And there might be someone at the table that says, oh, you know, I used to work with them 5 years ago and this is the history. Of course, we have a SPOA release that this client has signed. So, and everyone at this table is on the release. And so we just try to put our heads together and say, you know, what's going on with this person? How can we better assist them? So that's it in a nutshell. Does anyone have, I mean, the referrals can be found on the county website. they're not easily found on the county website, unfortunately, but if you go to the otsegocounty.com website, you go to the mental health page, and then on the left side, there's going to be I think it says documents section. And then you click on documents, and then there's the children's SPOA referral and the adult SPOA referral. More than happy to email that to anyone. If you want to give Alicia your info, I'm more than happy to email it, fax it, whatever you need. This is all of my contact information. So like I said, I can get referrals any which way, or we can just chat on the phone and determine if it makes sense to even make the referral in the first place. So does anyone have any questions?
None yet.
All right. It's a lot, and it's tough to really go into, the nitty gritty of each service and how that works. But like I said, if someone has a mental health diagnosis, and you're not sure, or you want to kind of see, hey, like Sid's question earlier, like, is there something for this person? Always reach out. Sometimes it's not a mental health diagnosis. It's someone that has a developmental diagnosis. So they're really in the OPWDD realm. And I will try to make sure I get that person connected to the right people in that system. So it's rare that someone calls me and I say, I don't know, and I do nothing. I usually try to come up with at least, hey, why don't you try A, B, C, and D if there's not something formally coming to me. All right.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, is there any questions? Okay. You're welcome.
There's no questions in the chat.
Okay. All right. So anyone, like I said, reach out, call, or, like I said, Alicia can get you my info. Go from there. Thank you.
Thank you.